Hey everyone, I'm Mike from JinbuPal, and today I'm going to share a quick tip for how to easily get a more immersive environment for language learning by switching over your iPhone system language. We'll be talking specifically about learning Mandarin Chinese in this video, but these points should be applicable for most target languages, so stick around. Have you ever considered practicing your language skills by changing your smartphone system language? I had always heard of people using this technique with their phone, computer, GPS, etc. But until recently, I had never tried it myself. I started using this method to help remind myself to practice my Mandarin daily, and it became really helpful. Today, I'd like to share with you a few of the benefits and also the difficulties I've encountered from doing this. First off, I want to say that this video reflects my personal experiences changing my system language on iPhone, and some of the points I'll mention may not be applicable on Android phones. I plan to make another video which discusses how exactly to change your system language to Chinese. If I've already posted that video, you'll find a link in the video description below. But the rest of this video will be dedicated to the benefits and drawbacks and not the exact process of changing system language settings. Not surprisingly, tons of system menus and labels change to Chinese, which is a great way to learn new terminology and vocabulary. One thing to note is that the Siri language is managed through a separate setting, so you can still communicate with Siri in English. Many apps that you probably use every day support Chinese language and will start sending you push notifications and other information in Chinese. I particularly enjoy this feature of Instagram where you can tap on captions for a quick translation from your native language to Chinese. You probably guessed this one, but when you change language settings, Google Maps changes entirely to Chinese. This is really cool because it helps you to learn the Chinese names for many different cities around the world. It will also change your GPS turn-by-turn navigation to be spoken in Mandarin. Here's one benefit that I never would have expected. You may be familiar with how when you use the Safari browser on iPhone, often a Google search will provide a brief blurb taken from Wikipedia and a link to the relevant Wikipedia page. With your iPhone set to Chinese, this will still show up, but will often show up in the Chinese version. When you follow those links, the Wikipedia articles themselves will also be the Chinese version by default. This is super cool because it reminds you to take some time and read a little bit in Chinese every day. I find that I often would rather try reading the Chinese version than take the time to change over the Wikipedia page back to English. But if you need to change it back to English, you can quickly do that too. Lastly, I found that occasionally specific websites will support Chinese, especially if the websites are for companies which sell products globally. This is really cool because you don't always expect which websites will support this, so it gives you a little bit of spontaneity to your day, providing more occasional opportunities to practice your Chinese skills. So that rounds out the major benefits that I've noticed. Now it's time to discuss a few things you might want to consider and watch out for. Many apps determine what language to present content in based on your system settings. This can be really cool because most apps on your phone will suddenly convert to Chinese language, as we just saw. However, there are some functions that can be kind of daunting to have change entirely to Chinese, especially if you aren't 100% confident in your skills. For example, some online banking or stock trading apps may have Chinese language functionality and will change languages. I personally have noted PayPal as an example of this. Just be aware that if you're making a large transaction or you aren't confident that you understand, you may want to temporarily change back to your native language to complete that task and then switch your settings back over. Having your phone set to Chinese can be all well and good when you're in a normal low-stress situation. But when you are stressed out and in a hurry, I can find it to be a bit of an extra headache sometimes. I've found that Google Maps providing Mandarin language navigation can be a bit frustrating at times. This can be frustrating even if you understand perfectly because the GPS turn-by-turn directions do not provide street names. Instead, Google will tell you something like turn left in 500 feet, but give you no further explanation. You'll have to look at your phone for clarification on the map most of the time to see the street name. This isn't a game changer, but it can definitely add some difficulty if, say, you're in the heavy rain and in traffic at the time. Just be careful and consider maybe changing the language settings back over to English before setting out on a long journey if this is the sort of thing that you're worried about. Remember, changing languages requires a brief system reboot, not to mention navigating through the system menu in Chinese. So it's not an immediate process if you do get yourself in a bind and need to change it quickly. This may be unfamiliar to most users, but I think it's worth noting. I like to minimize the time and energy I spend reading information on my phone. So I have enabled the Speak Selection setting in the Spoken Content menu. What this does is it allows you to have your iPhone read selected text aloud to you. This is helpful if you want to just select the text in an article or email and listen to it by having it read to you. Either way, if you also use this setting, note that changing languages to Chinese will have some impact on this functionality. You can still select and read text aloud by selecting the text and tapping Lang Du. However, I find that iPhone's Asian accent voice sounds a bit more robotic to me when it's reading English content at fast speeds. In addition, all numbers and dates within the selected text will be spoken in Chinese even if the text you are selecting is in English. This isn't a huge impairment, but it can be a bit distracting. I hope you found this information useful, and if you're learning Chinese yourself, please check out our website to see how you could learn Chinese at lightning speed with our JinbuPal web app. If you enjoyed this video and you want to keep seeing more like it, please support us by liking and subscribing. Also, be sure to check out our blog for tons of other written content about topics just like this. Thanks.